There I am. Hi, everyone. I'm doing my best. My best just isn't, very good. But hi, I am the news neighbor, and this is me trying something new, something very different. Yeah, cool. I can be seen. I have the screen pulled up on another angle, and I spent a full minute not being in the stream. So I'm glad that I'm in the stream now. But today, we're talking about the news, and I have this huge board filled with empty space. I sure hope that people can hear me. If you cannot hear me, let me know. I literally wrote blank space on the board and subscribe for more board because I really like my board. But today we're talking about the news. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be doing more live streams, and I hope that y'all are having a great day. I'm going to put the board away now because the board takes up space and makes it so that you can't see me, and I'm doing my best to actually be visible. I'm even sitting up straight, which when you have bad posture like me is not easy. So just so people know, there is a delay in the stream. I don't know what the message retracted said. Oh, someone needs to cheat. Oh, goodness. What a question to be asking. Oh, man. I don't know if I am the right person to be answering that question. I actually don't think that we should be super concerned about the results of the British election. I think that we should be concerned about Britain itself, but I don't know if it's super appropriate to be comparing the results of this election to our results. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to pay attention to. I'm very concerned for my British friends, including my British friends who are Brexit supporters. Popping out chat isn't the problem, Tria. Tria, the reason I'm having a little bit of difficulty with chat is that there's a delay between the chat on the YouTube and the chat on StreamYards. Now that we've actually started the stream, it's a lot less noticeable, but if I go over to YouTube, there's a few seconds delay. I wanted to take some time today to talk about impeachment, but then I ended up getting asked by Bible Belt Atheist to come onto his channel later this weekend on Sunday to discuss impeachment more formally. And I'm going to be doing that, but I'm also going to be talking about impeachment today. I am going to talk about impeachment, but I'm just going to give a pretty basic overview of some of the stuff that's happened. And then I'm going to talk about an article that appeared in the Rolling Stone. I am actually pretty excited, nervous, and saddened by all of the developments that have happened with this Rolling Stone article. All of you here so far follow me on Twitter, at the very least, as far as I know. If you're here and you're just like a lurker, just chilling in the chat, be sure to let me know so that way I can amend what I just said. But if you follow me, Zal, at 4:30 EST on Sunday. Yeah, just so you know. I got you, fam. Which is, it's a 2-hour delay. So it's 2:30 Mountain Time, aka Zal's time. Yeah, and I'm going to be having I'm going to have notes and stuff prepared for that then. But for right now, I'm just going to have a casual chat. I want to start to do weekly live streams, and I want to start to get back into video making. But I recently found out, as in earlier today, that in my final course for my master's degree, I need to have an internship, which I don't know if anyone here knows this. I despise internships, especially because most are not, paid, which is only one of the reasons I hate internships. But because of that, I'm going to be doing a good amount of unpaid labor next semester. It's not going to be too overwhelming. I'm going to be able to do videos and stuff. But next semester, I'm taking 2 courses, and both of them last a full semester, which makes them incredibly different compared to other courses in my major, all of which have only been 9 or even 5 weeks because I've taken summer courses. But yeah, we're going to be talking about impeachment today, just so you know. And that's what we're going to be doing right now. So impeachment is a very interesting thing with a long and storied history in the United States. The I'm not going to be talking too extensively about the history. I'm going to save that for Sunday's chat. But just so you know, impeachment comes from a part of our history from back when we were a part of the British colonies. And impeachment was a process that politicians and leaders in the UK or in Britain, back when Britain was still just Britain, had to defend themselves against overreach from the throne. And they couldn't impeach the actual royals themselves, but they could impeach politicians who were representatives of the royals. And that was a very handy tool that they had. In fact, there's a video by Legal Eagle that talks pretty extensively about the basic history of impeachment. It's a really solid video. I definitely recommend people go and check it out. A lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about with the impeachment stuff today comes from both that article and predictions for the future. I'm not going to be making any super formal predictions. I'm mostly going to be talking about what people already know if you've been following impeachment super closely, but not that many people have, because a lot of people rightfully think that impeachment won't lead to removal. And yeah, it won't. That's a spoiler. Sorry, guys. Donald Trump probably isn't going to be removed from office. And it's entirely possible that I'm wrong about that. It is entirely possible that I will eat my words about that. Not very likely, though. If you went into this thinking that Donald Trump was going to be removed from office, probably not what's going to happen. Once again, never know. I could have to take the L on this, but that's probably not what's going to happen. But for those of you who know what's going on with impeachment, if you have questions about the next steps are for Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment and all of their major information over to the Senate, and then for the Senate to begin the trial process. There are other things that are going to happen after that, but I'm going to be talking about that in just a second. At this point, I'm going to try to put up an article. I'm going to see if I can. One of the articles that isn't in the little links. But if you don't know, I have articles that are in the links, including the link to the Legal Eagle video, which talks about impeachment in depth. And it's a pretty solid, pretty nuanced, and fairly balanced video that I definitely recommend you check out. If you want to get the heads up on what's going down, and if you want to know what comparisons could be drawn between this impeachment and past impeachments, that's definitely the video to go and watch. One of the reasons I want to talk about this today is that there's some neat stuff that people probably don't know. There were attempts, not major attempts, but there were people who wanted to try and impeach President Obama. Some of the reasons are not going to surprise people. There were people who wanted to impeach President Obama because of Benghazi. Of course, just if you have been following American history, even remotely in the last, ever since Benghazi happened, that would not surprise you. But there were no articles that were ever drawn. Nothing was ever sent to anyone. It was just a thing that some Republicans wanted to do. And I think that's something that's pretty neat. I think that's something that people should know and people should talk about. If people are interested in that, I can make a video talking about that specifically. I probably will anyway, because impeachment's such a fascinating topic. But also, I agree with Chris that Legal Eagle is a closet comrade. Yeah, I went into that video not knowing how it was going to go and worried for so many different reasons. But by the end of the video, I was like, man, this is a good video, and I highly recommend it to friends who have even the littlest bit of interest in this. If you are one of the people who thinks that impeachment's not going to result in anything changing, I disagree with that take. I think that the idea that politics are a zero-sum game, or at the very least that impeachment is a zero-sum game, where it's either someone gets impeached and removed or nothing else changes, and it was a waste of time, is a bad take. And I think that for a wide variety of reasons. One of the big reasons I think that in this particular case is that Donald Trump is as sensitive to these sorts of things as he is, that this sort of attempt and this sort of political, psychological operation or psych op is going to have a big effect on him. And it already has. If you have been on Twitter at all in the last 2 days, you have undoubtedly seen him. Unless you've blocked him, you have undoubtedly seen his reactions to this in some way or another. You might not have seen his direct tweets, but you've almost certainly have seen people talking about how he's been tweeting. You've almost certainly seen... Sal's comment made me laugh. Like, we've been able to watch how the president has reacted to all of this. And regardless of whether or not you like him, if you like him, you probably don't like me. So, I mean, if you like him, I would be surprised if you're in this particular video, especially as it's happening right now. But I mean, if you are a Trump supporter, I'm not gonna, like, tear your head off just for being a Trump supporter. I will have questions. I'd also like to know what it is about my videos like you find interesting or entertaining if you are someone who is a conservative. And I don't even mean that in like a I want to make fun of you way. I want to know if like my videos are something that people across political lines watch, because I don't make videos for people regardless of their political beliefs. I make videos for my audience, and my audience are left-leaning people overwhelmingly. It would be really weird if there was a right-winger who watched my videos and was like, yeah, I'm having a good time here. That'd be kind of cool, but I mean, it'd be weird. But yeah, I think that impeachment is a thing that's worth talking about. I think that it's going to have a lasting effect, not just as a historian, which for those of you who don't know, hi, I'm a historian. I have a degree in history. I do historical work. Sometimes I write about history and stuff. I find history very fascinating, and I studied it in undergrad. And it's something that I want to incorporate more into my career, especially now that I'm almost done with my master's degree, because my master's degree is very much not history. I think that history is something that I'm always going to incorporate into my career, but I think that it's not going to be the main focus of my career. And I don't really want it to be. I mostly want to have the skills and the knowledge to do the sorts of research that I can, and just have the skills needed to be able to talk about historical topics. Some of my more popular videos, especially lately, have been my historical videos. And now that I'm making videos again, I'm going to try to do more historical content, but refocusing, because I have a bad habit of veering off track. The next basic step in the impeachment process is for Nancy Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment along with other relevant information over to the Senate. And there are a number of people who say that the president hasn't yet been impeached, specifically because the Senate hasn't yet received the articles of impeachment and all of that stuff. I am going to say that colloquially, I totally butchered the pronunciation of that word, but I'm going to say that for the most part, that's not really going to hold up in, I guess, the court of popular opinion, partially because a lot of really popular, really prominent figures on both the right and the left have already started saying that the president has been impeached. And it's worth noting, if you don't know, especially if you hop into this video at a later date, impeachment and removal are not the same thing. Impeachment is the first step leading up to removal, and impeachment refers to the articles of impeachment, the charges of the things that the president might be removed for. I agree with Zal. I'm not going to get super political right now. I'm a very political person, but I don't want to get super political in this specific little video. I mostly want this to be information. And yeah, I think that there will be a neat chance to have a political discussion about this afterwards. I thought about doing an after party for this. I don't really feel like doing that. I feel like that would take a little bit of time to set up, but I'm going to start doing these sorts of news breakdowns far more regularly in the future, because I really like talking about the news. And in the future, I would like to do little after parties for this sort of thing. I probably won't do them on Fridays, because Fridays are like a weird day, but I will do them eventually. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, so once the articles of impeachment have been sent over to the Senate and Donald Trump is once again impeached, then a trial will have to happen sooner or later. And both historically and also in terms of what is written up and what is legal. It's supposed to happen sooner rather than later. There shouldn't be too much of a delay between the time that the articles are sent over to the Senate and then the drag. That was a really funny comment. There shouldn't be too much of a delay between the time that the articles are sent over and the trial happens. And the trial is the moment that decides when or if the president's going to be removed from office. So let's say that something absolutely bananas happens. It's not going to happen. But let's say that it did. If something bananas happened and the people who were present in the trial voted by 2/3 to remove the president would be removed. And then the vice president would step in and become the next president. There are lots of questions that people have about this, and there's lots of the theoretical options that could happen afterwards that I'm not going to discuss here because I want to keep this to be a very bare bones discussion because I want to save the super juicy stuff for Sunday. And I'm super sorry. When I first decided to do this, I was originally going to make this be a far more in-depth and exclusively impeachment-focused live stream. That is not the case today. So if you have any super juicy questions, I do encourage you to show up on Sunday. I will be sharing the link on Twitter, and I'll also be going into the comments on here later and putting up the link. As far as I know, Bible Belt has not already made the live stream, but it is entirely possible that I might be wrong. I just haven't gotten the link to it yet if it's already been made. But I will share it with plenty of time beforehand, and I will be sharing it out on Twitter. So I do hope that the good number of the people here check me and Bible Belt out on Sunday. Yeah. We're going to keep talking about impeachment for a little bit longer because I think that there's some stuff that people should know. Before we move on to acephobia and murder, which were the other things on my board, and other really important topics that we're going to be talking about today, I wanted to share some information that people should know going into the situation. There are some people who are of the opinion that it is wrong for Nancy Pelosi to withhold the articles of impeachment. I'm going to say that I personally disagree with this take. I think that she's doing the right thing because I think that she's worried that there are going to be people who try to automatically strike down everything. No, Chris, are you flying on Sunday? I hope you can make it. It would be cool if you can make it. Also, you are traveling very close to Christmas. That is cutting it close. But yeah, so there are some little things that people should know going into this discussion. It is entirely possible that the second that the Senate gets the articles of impeachment, they could try to vote it down immediately, which is one of the reasons why. Hey, Jamie, I hope you're doing well. Also, what are your pronouns today? For those of you who don't know, Jamie is one of my best pals, and they are a dope person that everyone should go follow. But yeah, so it's entirely possible that if the Senate receives the articles of impeachment super early, they could try to do all sorts of shenanigans to vote it out immediately, which is probably the main reason and is in fact the main justification that Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has used to try and withhold them and to try to justify her decision to withhold them. I agree with that decision. I think most of the people that follow me probably also agree with that decision if they know that it's happening. And Drag Worker brings up a good point. With Mitch, it's not going to happen. Mitch is not a fair and impartial juror in this situation, and Mitch has gone on the record. Cool. I'm glad that I have been using the correct pronouns today then already. Yeah, so Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is the Republican senator from Kentucky, is not a fair juror. And there is no possible way that he is going to do anything to try and make this an even battlefield. The reality is, even if it was an even battlefield, even if it was an even playing field, Republicans already have the votes needed to make sure that even if it was a simple majority, which it isn't, but even if it were, it was going to be voted down. So I know that it's super pessimistic to come into the situation and be like, hey, don't have your hopes up. But I want to tell you all, please don't have your hopes up because I don't want any of my friends to be super excited about this just to be crushed. And I've said this before in this stream, but if you come into this stream later on and you have never heard this before, I would be super excited to be wrong. I would be super excited if Republicans decided to have principles and they were just like, hey, fam, what you've done, super uncool. So many of the things that you've done are super uncool that there's no possible way we could defend you. And yeah, so we're not going to. But also, that's not what's going to happen. And even in the aftermath of that, unless there was an even more bonkers situation wherein people also decided to remove Mike Pence, the aftermath of that would probably be worse. One of the big evangelical publications named Christianity Today, which if you've never read, please don't. It is a dumpster fire of a magazine. I've said that before. I will go on the record and say it again. Christianity Today is just bad. It's bad writing. It's very bigoted. And if you don't believe me and you decide to go and test your luck, just go onto their website and type in abortion and look at the articles that you read. And that will tell you all you really need to know about this publication. It's a bad publication. They have decided to go on the record speaking out against the Donald Trump presidency, and they have decided to call for Donald Trump's removal, which is a bold stance. And would be a lot more bold if those of us who were reacting to it were naive people and we looked at it and we ignored who would come after Donald Trump. Because when the president is removed from power, the person who next becomes the president is the vice president. And the vice president is basically Christianity Today's wet dream. And both as a asexual person and also as like an atheist, it's really funny for me to talk about Christians and wet dreams. But yeah, if you are a conservative evangelical, Mike Pence is your guy. And one of the big reasons why someone like Donald Trump got the number of votes that he didn't win the election. I'm not dumb enough to sit here and pretend that he did. But one of his biggest reasons for being so popular with evangelicals was that he had an evangelical as his vice president. Lots of the responses that I have seen to people talking about Christianity Today ignore that very obvious fact. And it's really weird to me how easy it is for us to just wave away the fact that Mike Pence is the VP. Because Mike Pence being the VP, in my opinion, was probably one of the biggest reasons why Donald Trump had the evangelical backing that he did. I'm not saying that it's one of the biggest reasons why he won, although it definitely helped. But it definitely was one of the big reasons why evangelicals felt as comfortable as they did at the time of the election, voting for him as they did. And anyone who ignores that is not giving you a serious political analysis that actually contextualizes all of the stuff that's going on right now. I want the president to be impeached, and I want him to be removed. He has already been impeached. I want him to be removed. But I am concerned about Pence, and I think that Pence is worse. And I've gone on record saying that before. I'll go on record saying it again. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it took this long for an impeachment effort to get moving that actually had like what it needed to get this far. But I mean, one of the biggest obstacles was the House of Representatives being Republican controlled until the last election. So, I mean, fair. Zal, I didn't know that you shared any of Mike Pence's names. I actually no, I think I might have known what you were talking about now that I think about it, but it took me a second to remember. I know so many people named Mike. It's really odd. Now that we have talked about impeachment, I want us to talk about a Rolling Stone article. And for those of you who don't know, this article is going to be I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this particular content warning. We're going to be talking about someone who was recently murdered, and we're going to be talking about the ace phobia that has since surrounded that person. And the ace phobia comes from a number of different sources. And I'm going to start by defining what is ace phobia. Ace phobia is basically, in this particular case, a hatred of asexual people, which includes denying that they exist. And that is exactly what Rolling Stones, which is apparently a major publication that talks about cultural and crime news. I knew that they talked about music. I didn't know until fairly recently that they talked about other stuff. I'm not super surprised, but I didn't know for sure because I had no real reason to go in and try and read them before now. But a couple of days ago, they published an article written by one of their major writers named E.J. Dixon. And E.J. Dixon is apparently aphobic because her content, I've only read the one article that she wrote for the Rolling Stone that we are discussing right now. But there are other people who say that she has a longer history of being aphobic. And I'm not going to say for sure that she is aphobic beyond this article, but in this article, she is absolutely being aphobic. She wrote an article that I'm going to share in the comment section, not in the comment section, in the chat section of this. You guys can tell that I'm not like a super professional YouTuber because I need to know what words mean. But yeah, if you go in and you read the article that I just posted in the chat section, you will be able to learn about Bianca Devins. Bianca Devins was a teenager who was recently murdered, and she was publicly asexual. By publicly asexual, I mean that she came out undeniably online. I don't necessarily know that she came out to her family or to her friends, but she posted a photo on Instagram that revealed that she was asexual. She used the caption, "This is what an asexual person looks like." I just said that I said that in like the longest possible way. But basically what you need to know is this person is a murdered asexual person. And in the Rolling Stone article, they said that it was false that she was asexual. The article has since been amended, but if you go into the article and you go and you just do the search bar thing where you find words in the text and you type in asexual, the first time you type it up, it is going to say that rumors spread that Bianca was asexual, and then there's going to be in parentheses, possible. And originally it said false. Backlash was had by the asexual community, myself included, who reacted to E.J. Dixon's tweets about this, as well as the Rolling Stones tweets about this. And we came out very ferociously in opposition to this over the course of the last couple of days. I'm not going to say who was the first super public person who tweeted about it. The first person that I saw was Yasmin Binot, whose name I totally butchered just now. And I'm super sorry that I absolutely butchered that name. But she retweeted the article and she said, she pointed out that it was false for the article to deny that Bianca was asexual. She was. She came out herself. I am going to respond to one of the comments right now. Tria just said, "Yeah, thank you, Tria, for using the full caption. This is what asexual looks like." I have only ever used that hashtag myself once, so I sometimes forget like the full name. But I'm going to respond slightly to something that Tria just said. She said that she did not come out to family or friends. They deny she was ace. I'm going to say that that's probably not necessarily what happened, because when I first came out as asexual publicly, there were a lot of people who denied that I was asexual. So it is entirely possible that she came out to them and they just rejected that part of her identity. Most of my family and friends now fully understand and fully accept that I'm ace, but it took a while. I've been a public asexual since 2014. Not 2014, since 2016. And that means I've been asexual openly for 3 years. And there are still relatives I have, not my mom or my dad, thankfully, but other relatives who deny that I'm ace. So I'm going to say that she probably didn't come out to her family or friends, but she definitely came out objectively online. So there's no possible way for someone who does a little bit of research to deny that she was asexual. But despite that, E.J. Dixon, who is the author of the article and has been the main point person that people have been responding to about all of this, has taken a lot of heat, rightfully. She's also blocked people, including me, which is super fun because I was not nice. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I was nice because I don't have to be nice to someone who writes something that is factually and objectively wrong, especially when it comes to something like this. If you deny the reality of our community, if you deny the reality that there are people who are openly and publicly asexual, I'm not going to be nice to you, and I'm not going to apologize to it. I understand that there are people who think we should be nice to these sorts of people. I agree that most of the time we probably should, but there's something infuriating about this particular situation to me. There's something deeply inhumane about the idea that someone who was murdered would be denied the dignity of being acknowledged for what she was. That's the main thing that's infuriated me so much about all of this. I don't really want to talk super specifically about the details of this person's murder. I want people to go in and read the article themselves, because the reality is the article is a well-written article. I don't have to sit here and like trash the article to have issues with the area of the article that I hate. And the fact that the article is well written does in no way counter the fact that it is objectively wrong about something that is incredibly important and something that is relevant to the case at hand. The reality is that Bianca was asexual, and I don't know if she came out to her family and friends. I'm going to assume that she probably didn't, because she was a fairly young person. I was considerably older than she was when I came out, both to myself and to my family and friends, because I came out to myself, like I realized that I was ace the same year that I came out to my family and friends, but it didn't happen at the same time. This wasn't like how it went when I was an atheist. When I came out as an atheist, I came out publicly as an atheist, which is something that not everyone knows about me. If you know me now and you didn't know me when I was a Christian, I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it so that I can really illustrate the point that I'm making right now. The moment I realized that I was an atheist was the minute I finished walking out of the movie theater, watching the movie God's Not Dead. That movie was the final powder keg for me. And after that, I walked out of a movie theater. I realized that I was an atheist, and I looked at my partner at the time and I told her that. And then the next day, like literally the next day, I went on Facebook and I made my first ever Facebook post where I said that I was an atheist. That is not how it went when I realized that I was asexual. For those of you who don't know, hi, I'm asexual. I'm pretty open about all of that stuff. So if you're a subscriber, which you probably are, you know that I'm ace. I talk about it pretty regularly, although I feel like I probably talk about being an atheist more or less depending on the time of year. Right about now, I talk about being an atheist more just because, you know, it's Christmas time. It's Christmas. But I'm pretty open about all of these aspects of myself because I want people to know that they know someone who is a member of these communities. And I think it's important that people be able to know that this is what an atheist looks like. This is what an asexual looks like. By the way, if you've never seen that hashtag, I definitely recommend it. It's super cool, and it will break a lot of if you have any stereotypes about what an asexual person looks like, it will definitely break them. And I know that there are also similar hashtags for atheism, which are also super cool. I appreciate all of those sorts of things. And I think that I don't know if I've ever used the this is what an atheist looks like one, but I've definitely used the this is what an asexual looks like one. And I like both of them. They're both super cool. But being public about these sorts of things is really scary. And I've gotten threats about these aspects of my identity. And people inflict violence on people for being an atheist, for being asexual, for being queer, for being non-Christian. I live in the Bible Belt, y'all. And let me tell you, over here, I've actually gotten more threats for my atheism than my asexuality. But I've gotten threats for both. And I understand why it is that people should be scared about this sort of thing. Not should be. I understand why it is that people are scared about this sort of thing. It's scary in today's world. It was scary before before the current president, before the current political administration, to be public about being non-Christian, to be public about being a queer person. Now it's even scarier. And I was lucky to have had the chance to build up my tolerance and my bravery, even in North Carolina, in a time when being those sorts of things was starting to become more acceptable. And I think in the long run, it's still being more acceptable now. I think that the net sort of like acceptance of these once taboo identities is gradually increasing. But I'm gonna be real. Like living in North Carolina, it's easy to get scared. I don't know a huge number of the details about Bianca Devin's story, and I kind of wish that I knew more, but I also kind of wish that I didn't. I wish that I don't know if I wish I had read the story or if I wish I hadn't, because it's difficult to read this sort of stuff. And it's difficult for someone like me to find that balance between self-care and between being engaged. And I think that's a really funny thing to talk about when it comes to this sort of stuff. I think that it's only recently becoming apparent that there's like self-care issues with following the news. And by recent, I mean like the last few years. I don't mean like recent, like in the last couple of months. But like, I know lots of people who don't watch the news. I know lots of people who don't follow politics. And their reasons are valid. And the most common reason that I hear of this sort of thing is that people are worried about the sort of effect it would have on their mental health. And reading the Bianca Devin story, it can be damaging to your mental health. So if you are thinking about reading it yourself, I don't know if I would recommend it. I think it's important that people who can, I think if you have that sort of mental wavelength, and if you're able to do that sort of thing without worrying about it negatively affecting your mental health, then you should. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. And that's my 2 cents on a lot of the news. Basically, you should follow the news if you have the time, if you have the mental energy, and if you have not the strength, but I guess the sort of tenacity needed to be able to handle those sorts of stories, you should always follow them. But if you can't, I hope that you don't mind me talking about these sorts of things. I usually do a pretty good job of like, I guess, talking about the sorts of things we're going to be talking about early on. And that's something that I've done in my videos, especially my more recent ones. I put up like content notes and trigger warnings when necessary. But also, hey, Casey, I hope that you're doing well. We're talking about the news. We're talking specifically about the story of Bianca Devin's. And I don't know if you can actually see the chat that's like before you entered. But if you can't, let me know and I'll like reshare the link to the story. But I'm excited to see friends here. I am going to be trying to do more regular videos and more regular live streams, but it's not always super easy, which is something I'm sure most people understand. Also, I do D&D like every weekend, and I kind of love that. So if people haven't seen me online in a while, I definitely recommend checking out the D&D things that I do. I do D&D with Zal Rock Chaos, who is one of the people in the chat, and Godless Cranium, who... Oh, cool, thanks. Godless Cranium, who, if you follow me, you almost certainly know who Godless Cranium is. I probably should need to preface that. But if you don't, if you follow me because I'm a Latinx person or because I'm asexual, and you don't follow the atheist stuff that I do, fair. Then Godless Cranium is a Canadian YouTuber who does super cool atheism videos. He's also super into D&D, and I love it. And he and I and Zal and a whole bunch of other people do one-shots. We're getting ready to do some Pathfinder stuff. And yeah. So that's super exciting because I really love Pathfinder. I don't know if anyone knew this about me because I don't talk about like RPGs super often. But I really love doing RPG stuff. So if you like RPGs, then you can definitely check me out over on all of those. I'll probably start putting up links to that sort of stuff in the future because I think that's actually pretty neat. But yeah, so I definitely think if you have the mental wavelength and the mental energy needed to handle reading these sorts of stories, you should. If you can If you can share them, you should, because it's important that people know about this sort of stuff. Being acephobic is something that causes a lot of asexuals to feel fear. I tweeted about this the other day. Very specifically, one of the things I said was that I'm worried that if I was murdered and it was somehow related to sex or sexuality, or in my case, the lack thereof, people would deny that I'm ace. And that's something that actually legitimately scares me. Like, I know that people might have thought that I was tweeting about that just for like the emphasis. And I kind of was, but I was speaking to a real fear that I and other people feel. The reality is, it is entirely possible that one day, if I was ever murdered, whoever writes the stories that result from my murder could go out of their way to deny the fact that I'm ace. That's called asexual erasure. And that's a thing that happens. The Bianca Devon story is probably the most recent example. As far as I know, it's the most recent example of asexual erasure. And it is on such a huge scale that it's possible that it could start a conversation about asexual erasure. But one, it probably won't, because Rolling Stone has a very specific audience, and they're a popular publication, but like, I don't know how many people already read Rolling Stone who were queer people, who were LGBT people, who were outraged by this, especially because a lot of the time, asexual people feel like we are a second-class group in the greater queer community. And Tria's right. Erasure also isn't always on the specific scale that we're talking about right now, where it's huge and undeniable. Asexual erasure is often something that's like really small. It's almost, in some cases, on the scale of what some people call microaggressions, because it's easy to deny that someone is ace. It's easy to be like, oh, it's just a phase. It's easy to be like, hey, you just haven't found the right person. And there are some people for whom they do just need to find the right person to be able to experience these sorts of things. But those people aren't better or worse. Like, if you're a demisexual person like I am, you are capable of experiencing sexual attraction to someone. But there are specific conditions that need to be met. But that is not the case for everyone. And it's really important that people understand that. And the fact that I am demisexual doesn't make me better or worse than anyone else who is part of the aspec, which is the asexual spectrum. It just means that I am in a specific identifiable place where I am somewhere between being not fully, but being like a person who never experiences sexual attraction, a full asexual person, versus someone who is allosexual, which is the term that asexuals use and people in the aspec community use to describe people who are not asexual or on the aspec spectrum. Aspec spectrum. I'm so good at English, guys. I don't understand why I have the audience that I have. But erasure doesn't always have to be this big and undeniable. And in fact, it's a lot easier for people to ignore most of the time, because most of the time it isn't something that's egregious. It isn't something that happened on a major publication that's read by millions of people a month. Like, Rolling Stone has such a huge audience that this is one of the times where it's not just asexual people who are angry. There are people who are members of the queer community, and there are even people who aren't, who are just allies, who read this and who are outraged and who have written about it and who have talked about it. And that's something that's super exciting, but it's also something that's kind of disheartening, because it leaves some of us to wonder if it's going to take something like that for there to be any real conversation. And sometimes it does take something like this. And there are people like me who are happy that we're having a conversation at all, but who are also just disgusted that it took something this mind-fuckingly extreme for there to be people who are like, hey, something needs to happen, something needs to change. One of the big things that I think needs to happen is that I think that Rolling Stone needs to have asexual writers and needs to work with asexual people to be like, hey, we recognize that we fucked up and we want to do something to fix it. And the best way for us to fix it is for us to learn from our mistakes, for us to collaborate with the ASPEC community, and for us to make sure that this never happens again. And part of that means making EJ apologize. Because if you actually read the article, getting back to, I guess, the main focus of this particular part of the video, if you read the article, there is an amendment at the bottom that says, this is infuriating to me, the story has been amended to clarify that while Bianca submitted a photo to the "This is what asexual looks like" account, her friends and family, including her mother and sister, told Rolling Stone they did not believe she identified as asexual. That is so important, and it is such utter horseshit, because this is something that could happen to any queer person. It could happen to anyone who is a member of a minority group, or even to someone who became a member of a different group and told their family, but their family just denied that reality. If you are someone who was gay and you were murdered in part because of your sexual orientation, and they made that a big part of your story, and they asked your family what your sexuality was, if you were part of a conservative family, if you were part of a family that otherwise did not believe in other sexualities, they could just say that while you said this, they did not believe that you were, and thus that could be used as justification for this. There's a reason that asexuals right now are so infuriated by this. And I hope that for all of the rambling that I'm doing and for all of the sort of tangents that I'm going on, people understand the main focus of what it is that I'm trying to say. This is something that is blatantly immoral. And the reality is this didn't have to be that huge of a thing, but Emily's behavior and the refusal of Rolling Stone to do, honestly, really basic stuff in this particular situation has made this into a bigger story than it was originally. Not just because EJ has a history or appears to have a history of being acephobic, but also because of the fact that her work is being bolstered and supported by the publication that she's a part of. If the publication decided ultimately that they wanted to reject what it was that she was hot off Reddit, if the publication ultimately decided that they wanted to make amends, they would reprimand her in a real way for this. And they would be like, hey, also, Drag, the reason the link isn't posting is because you are not a moderator. Try posting the link again. For those of you who don't know, Drag and I are friends. I trust Drag, and yeah. But yeah, you're a moderator now. You should be able to post the link. Cool. I don't know what the link is that you're posting. So, but yeah. I'm concerned about this because it would have been really easy to fix the situation. Let's say that I was an editor at Rolling Stone, and in a weird world where my writing takes off and I become like a real writer, not just someone who writes fiction and also blogs and stuff, but like a formal writer. If I were the editor in charge of this, what I would have done is I would have apologized to myself. I would have publicly urged Emily to apologize. And then I would have been like, hey, let's see. Yeah, that's true, guys. Republicans traditionally rely on voter suppression. It's true. That's, yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's, I don't think that anyone really needs, that, that to be like formally written out or whatever. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Republicans use voter suppression. Big surprise, because their policies are bad and they don't have popular support. But yeah, if I were an editor at the Rolling Stone, I would have fixed this really easily by being like, hey, I'm going to apologize, and I'm also going to urge Emily to apologize. I'm going to correct the article because it's pretty undeniable when someone submits a picture to the account that says this is what an asexual person looks like, that they are asexual, and issuing an editor's note that doesn't be like, hey, what if the family just denied this person's sexuality, or in Bianca's case, for lack thereof. I feel like this is a really easy thing to fix, and now that Rolling Stone has sort of decided to double down on their position, and also now that Emily is just blocking asexual writers and people who are being critical of her position and her nonsense, like, this situation it's going to get worse before it gets better. But the reality is that Bianca was asexual, and it's important that people know that. It's important that people realize that, and it's important that other asexuals know what's going on here. And it's a story that matters. And I hope that we get a real correction and that things get better and it doesn't happen again. I hope that we see substantive change. I hope that the editors of the Rolling Stone reconsider what is going on with Emily, and they're just like, hey, it's not cool that you're blocking queer people and that you are just like doubling down on your bad position. And it's entirely possible that originally it was an honest mistake, but now the fact that you're doubling down on it suggests something a lot worse, especially since you apparently have a history of being asphobic. All of that sort of stuff just compounds and makes this whole situation a lot worse. The reality is that Rolling Stones itself should issue an apology for their coverage, and they should be like, hey fam, we messed up. Sorry, and we deeply apologize for our writer who decides to block queer voices. Especially because a good number of the queer voices that she has blocked are not people like me who are like relatively privileged queer people. Like Yasmin, who is a very prominent asexual person, is a queer woman of color. And at least 3 of the other people that I've seen who have been blocked and who have like screenshotted the fact that they're blocked are also queer people of color. And it's kind of fucked that like people who are some of the least heard voices in news and media are among the people who are being the most disproportionately affected by all of this. It's all just really fucked. And if you are like me, you're infuriated by it. And it's not something that's going to be resolved anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if I write about it on my Patheos blog. And also, if you don't know, yeah, I have a Patheos blog. That's how most people have heard of me, because when I first started getting to become a prominent online person was when I was first writing like super publicly. And because of the just amount of time I've had to use for school and for work this last semester, I haven't had as much time to write and to make videos. Some of the only writing that I've been doing pretty consistently is fiction writing, which I'm doing for the first time like forever, which is super nice. But yeah, I definitely agree with Tria that Yasmin is a fairly prominent voice in the aspec community. I positively adore Yasmin. She's a super cool person, and I appreciate that she is like doing all of this work because it's really important work, and she gets a lot of flack for it, and it sucks because the reality is that aces are, I guess, one of the second class groups within the greater LGBT community. Blogging was fun. I blogged for Patheos, which, for those of you who don't know, Patheos is a fairly prominent religious blogging website that includes spaces for secular perspectives. I still do this on... Oh, goodness. So I don't know enough about all of the background with JKR to devote a section to this, to JKR, but it's been pretty well known for a while now that JKR was a TERF, so it's not super surprising. This isn't the first time JKR has done super TERFy bullshit. It's just probably the first time that it was like ultra prominent because people had heard about the background. People had heard a little bit of what was going on with Maya, and a lot of people in our community remembered and saw the backlash that people like EOT got when they confronted transphobes in the secular spaces. So there are people who were just really turned on to this sort of bullshit. And by turned on, I mean like we were paying attention. We were perceptive of it already. So when we saw it, we immediately knew what was going on. There was a secular person whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, who tried to who liked one of JKR's transphobic tweets and I immediately unfollowed that person. EOT has a tweet on their thing that tagged me, Mrs. Snarky, and a few other people who like had followed this person, and EOT had also followed this person, but all of us immediately unfollowed when we saw that, like, hey, this person is TERF, and this person, not necessarily this person, but this person liked a really TERFy take, and I don't stand for that bullshit. So I immediately unfollowed that person. I apologize for not being able to call names off the top of my head. This was all stuff that happened like a day and a half ago. And I just don't have enough knowledge to really talk about the specifics of JKR being a TERF for, but yeah, JKR is a TERF, super well known. Shouldn't surprise anyone. So yeah, if it surprised you, I mean, that's perfectly understandable. Like, you have to be before now, you have to have been a pretty social justice-y person. And I mean that in the best way, because I'm the definition of a social justice person. I do my best to be like maximally social justice on my channel and in my content. And I like that. Yeah, Tria's right. It was one of those tweets that like initially sounded, if you weren't familiar with like TERFs, so especially if you were an estadounidense, someone in the United States, and you weren't super familiar with TERFs, then it's entirely possible that you might have seen it and you might not have recognized all the signs that it was very TERFy, because TERFs definitely exist all over the place, but their specific rhetoric isn't as prominent outside of the UK. At least in my experience, most of the TERFs that I'm aware of are UK people. Definitely American TERFs, y'all. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying that the most popular ones that I'm aware of all live in the UK, and all write and talk about UK things. So if you are an American, unless you are a trans person or you're a non-binary person, you probably won't have seen that many of those sorts of things. And I'm speaking super generally right now, but I'm giving y'all my perspective. So I'm trying to be not like super specific. Yeah. Also, Tria, if you want to give I will give you the Twitter handle after this. I'll send you a DM, and I'm going to be leaving in a few-ish minutes. Right now, I want to chat a little bit and see how y'all are doing, because I've been talking at a computer for a hot minute. And I know that I did that enough back when I lived in DC that people thought that I was like super familiar with and pretty comfortable doing this sort of thing. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. I'm really not. It's difficult to, if you've ever done a live stream by yourself, or at the very least a live stream where you are the only person like in the live stream, like doing the chatting, then you know firsthand just how like difficult this stuff can be. There's some other stories that I want to talk about in the next couple of days, so it's possible I'll do one more of these news-y things before like next Friday. Especially because next Friday is not Christmas. I had to think for a second. I was like, is next Friday Christmas? It's not. Next Friday is the 27th. But yeah, I'd like to know how you guys are doing. I'm probably gonna leave this up for like another 10-ish minutes. And by leave it up, I mean like I'm still gonna be here. I'm gonna be like in the live stream. I'm gonna be DMing some folks after this because there's some stuff I still like need to do. Zalrock, Chaos, and I, and Drag, and a whole bunch of other people do Chaotic Roll, which is an ultra fun D&D live stream that happens over on Twitch, on Zal's Twitch. Zal is a mod, so Zal wants to plug. Oh yeah, KC, I write Sin God, and I promise I'm gonna start writing again soon-ish. I've been asked about that too by the people who run it, which is BeliefNet and like BeliefNet's like affiliates. I've been asked if I plan to still write, and I'm just like, you guys, I'm in grad school. That's the reason I'm not writing. But yeah, so Chaotic Roll is an ultra fun live stream that Zalrock Chaos, Christiosity, Godless Cranium, Drag Worker, Callan, myself. God, I hope I'm not missing anyone. I'm pretty sure that's all of us who are there right now. Yeah, it's just 6 of us. Assuming all of us are here, it is 6 of us. And Zal's our DM. I hope that Zal puts it in the chat so that way people can go and check it out. Cool, thanks. I'll also go ahead and just plug in the link for my Patheos blog because I'm gonna be writing again, I promise. My last post was in August, and I wrote about the voting age. I personally think it should be lowered, which was what I wrote. I want to write less political stuff over on my blog, and I want to write more about like Latinidad and Latinx stuff, and also like atheism. But my last post was on the voting age. Yeah, and we're going to be doing, like, we're starting to bring Chaotic Roll to sort of an end. We're reaching a potential stopping point pretty soon-ish. Last session, there was just one really long trap, and I really hated it. It wasn't fun because I couldn't do the thing that I do, which is talk to things just obsessively because I'm very nonviolent in D&D. But yeah, and this session, hopefully there'll be no traps. Hopefully. I really like D&D, and I'm going to start doing Twitch stuff myself. Not anytime super soon, but one of my close friends is a big Twitch. She's not like a big Twitch person, but she is a Twitch streamer who has over 550 subscribers. She might have hit 600. I haven't actually had time to check, but I'm going to be helping her out and stuff, and I'm going to be trying to do more Twitch stuff myself because I actually have a Twitch channel, which I use to follow people. Yeah, follow people. And I want to do stuff like Cards Against Humanity, because Cards Against Humanity is super edgy and super fun. And I want to do like games like Star Wars Battlefront. And I also want to talk to people. And yeah, so I'm going to be trying to do more writing and more Twitch stuff next year. That's like one of my big plans. Now that I'm finally going to be out of school again, I'm actually going to have time to sit down and do writing and stuff. No, she has 500 subs, not followers, subs. Very specifically. I don't know Twitch terminology. I had to like triple check to make sure that that was the case. But she's been doing Twitch pretty consistently for like a while now. She and I have known each other forever. And I do also want to start to interview people again. I was getting ready to start interviewing people right before I moved to Greensboro. And then when I moved to Greensboro, I like Google Google Hangouts. The thing that a lot of people used to use to stream was sort of like evaporated, I guess. It was just sort of wiped out. And then I started working and I started school, so I didn't have time. And it's unfortunate because I started an asexuality interview series right before I moved. And then when I moved, I thought I would have time to do interviews, and I just haven't. But now that everything's gradually coming to an end, I'm able to like sit down and start to plan more stuff out. Next semester is probably going to be even busier than this semester was. So I'm not going to do like a huge amount of stuff, but I am hoping to do 1 video and 1 live stream a week. Yeah, 1 video and 1 live stream a week. That is the plan. That's the goal. And that's, yeah, that's that. I am going to be doing a video, I don't think this weekend, but next week there will be a regular video. You might see more of my hat. You might see more on my board. Now that I've cleaned my room, I'm able to use it a lot more, which is super exciting. I want to interview both other secular people and asexual people. So I want to do like atheist, not necessarily people who are both, although if you're both, that's dope. That's cool. If you're, Jamie said it earlier, an atheist, that's tight, because that's what I am. And that's also what people like, I'm pretty sure Jamie is an atheist, and Tria is an atheist, and so is Atheistic Snail. There are a whole bunch of folks. But yeah, but subs. I was talking about subs when I was talking about my friend and her Twitch channel. I'm trying to like edit stuff for her. and I'm trying to like piece together all that stuff because I think it'd be fun because she and I are pals. And yeah, because Twitch is super cool, y'all. And if you don't, also Zal, you are one of the people I'm going to be interviewing. When I was figuring out my live stream settings, it told me, it was like, hey, here's upcoming interviews, and one of them was an interview with you, because I remember you and I were supposed to do an interview, and then that was the day not long before I moved away that my dog died. So yeah, that was the thing that happened. The last year, like 2019, has just been a wild ride. I am probably gonna do like a thing for the new year where I have like a little panel of my pals, and we're gonna talk about like our highlights for the year. The people that I would like to have on, I'm gonna be messaging about that pretty soonish, and it's not gonna be like New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, but it's gonna be like it's gonna be a thing, and it's gonna include a good number of people who are here now, and yeah, because I think it'd be super cool to be like, here's some neat stuff that happened this year in our lives. I think that'd be fun. And now that I've said that, I'm gonna let y'all go. I hope that you had a fun time. I know that I did. It's nice to be back in front of a live stream thingy, I guess in front of a webcam. It's also nice to like not be like super small like I was the first couple of times that I did live streams when I didn't know what I was doing. I hope that y'all had a lot of fun. I know that I did, and I can't wait to do more live streams. I will see you all tomorrow, because tomorrow GC's one-shot group, which includes myself, Zal, and Drag, are going to be here. We're going to be chilling. We're going to be hopefully not dying. And yeah. Bye, friends. Have a fun time.